I'd love to hear that.
And that compulsion, we need to recognize that. I don't think society has gotten to that point yet. You hear them talking about it, but I don't think society's got to the point yet where that compulsion to look at that phone is so strong. And I think you could almost view it as it's nothing, there's nothing bad. It's not like snorting cocaine. It's not like shooting heroin. How bad can it be for me to just check the scores? How bad can it be for me to just check my email real quick? But then you realize that you had 8 seconds and you grabbed your phone and looked at it in that 8 seconds you had between somebody drawing a breath and continuing on with their conversation. That to me seems like an addiction.
It's a complete addiction, and I would disagree. I would slightly disagree with you. I would say it's very bad. I think it's as bad as any drug. I mean, it's different. It's different, of course, but it's just as bad because it's creating all the problems we have in this world. If you really look at the problems, the people sitting behind their screens all day, whether it's their phone or their computer screen, and just hating on everything that's going on, right? And then the negativity that's going on and how we're poisoning people's minds. You look at all these mass shootings. I mean, most of these people who are doing mass shootings are addicted to being online. They're in hate groups. They're playing video games. They're shooting everybody up. Like, this is what is going on in this country. So I would say it's definitely a problem. And there's a complete lack of connection among people. People do not know how to communicate with each other like we used to 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Right.
They don't know how to communicate. And that's all because of the cell phone. That's what it's from. If you walk down the street in New York City, I mean, you're bumping into people left and right because people are all looking at their phone while they're walking.
Yeah, and that's the thing about that too. It became ubiquitous so quickly, texting and communicating via 120 characters or whatever it is. It seems like one day I was bitching to my wife about just call that person. It takes longer to text, and then the next thing I know, I'm not having conversations, and all I do is text.
Nobody calls anymore. It's crazy. So I go out of my way to call people. I leave a message. I know I leave a message and I say, hey, I know this is really weird because I'm calling you and not texting you, but I just want to be a little bit different from everybody else. And I also leave voice notes. Voice notes are good.
Well,
but the thing is that people want to react immediately. They feel like as soon as they get a text, they got to respond immediately. As soon as they get an email, they got to respond immediately.
Yeah.
Like nothing is going to change. If it was time sensitive, you'd get a phone call.
Right.
If they needed to know something immediately, you would get a phone call. Yeah. You don't need to respond immediately. Nothing's going to change. The work, like I always say, for people who are working 12, 14, 16 hours, I said, hey, the work isn't going anywhere. It's going to be there tomorrow, okay? You don't have to work 16 hours. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times that you have a product release or you need to get something in by a deadline. Those are, extraordinary times, and you have to do what you have to do during those times. But on a consistent basis, the work's going nowhere. Look, I chased everything. I chased the dollar. I wanted to become a millionaire. I wanted to have a successful business. And I did all of that. And you know where it left me? It left me completely empty. I wasn't fulfilled whatsoever. I wasn't happy because I didn't have any of the other things in my life. I didn't work on myself mentally. I wasn't in a good mental spot. I was just so focused on the business all the time. Right. I didn't show up for relationships. I wasn't present in the relationship. I was on my phone, just like you were talking about, the whole time, doing the next deal, putting out the next buyer, hiring the next person, whatever it was. And physically, I would go up and down in spurts. I would be really physically active, and then I'd just completely crash and be terrible with how I would. So I wasn't consistent. All those behaviors lead to complete inconsistency. I was very consistent at being inconsistent.
I so far, I love this podcast because you and the thing about podcasts and people that come on is they work so hard to get along. And some hosts really go out of their way to not disagree. You and I so far had disagreed on multiple things. And I think that kind of discourse is fantastic, and people can decide for themselves what they want to do. You make a good point. I don't know anybody successful that hasn't outworked all of their competition, and there's certainly a certain amount of people that struggle with doing that, but do that, and then they suffer harm from it, but emotionally and relationship wise and all of those things. But there are people, and this is kind of my message. I've done that. I've worked those 15, 18-hour days for 20 years. I've been married for 22 years, 3 kids in college. I think I consider myself a success based on the fact that I was a street kid. But I did all of those things. And so my message is that you can do that and have all of those other things, but it's very, very difficult. So I think you're right in the context of most people can't handle that and they need to have a more balanced life. But some of us can and have and are here to talk about it. And if that comes across as an inspiration or a deterrence, either way, I'm good with that.